Hello, welcome back to my channel. I'm Sarah and I love talking about books. I love reading books, and in today's video we are going to dive into my February reading wrap up. So let's just head on in. This month, in the month of February, I read 15 books. 16. I did have my first DNF of the year. So the first book I read this month was, and I have my computer here to look over everything. First book I read this month was a book called Of Deathless Shadows, which is part of the Alcrose Academy series, or Academy Duology. There's two of them. This is by K.M. Moranova. I hopped on her bandwagon after I discovered her last month, and I've read quite a few of her books at this point. I think this was my 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This was my 6th book of hers. This was the first book that I was a little disappointed in, honestly. This is supposed to be a dark romance where story comes in and our FMC, she has a boyfriend and they live in this village that they are ready to run away from, and as they're making plans to run away, the village gets attacked and essentially just decimated. It has this feel of fantasy and yet this futuristic dystopian feel as well. And then as she's trying to figure out what the heck's going on, her boyfriend that she was supposed to meet up with, they get separated, and so we have multiple POVs. We actually have her boyfriend, ex-boyfriend's POV, we have her POV, and then we have another, again, I don't know if he was the MMC or not, because I wasn't sure what all the POVs was. I wasn't sure if this was a why choose. I ended up rating this one 2 stars because, as you can see, I'm having trouble explaining it because the whole story to me was just very, very choppy. I didn't know what environment I was supposed to be in. I didn't understand the plot. I didn't understand why she was starting to like this person and this random MMC. And then they were also mated right away. So this one just didn't hit for me. But I still am a huge fan of K.M. Moranova. I still plan on reading more of her stuff, but this one unfortunately just did not hit. So coming off of that and some of the fantasy, I wanted to do, it was the beginning of the month, which was when the Olympic Games were starting as well. So I wanted to get into a little bit of a sports romance. I also was really bummed just not liking that book, and I felt like I was getting into a little bit of a reading slump. So I just grabbed a random romance from the library, and so my next one was Romancing the Grump, which was a closed-door hockey romance. And this one essentially was about our MMC, who is a hockey player. I think he's the goalie, actually. And he's just very grumpy, not very outgoing, but he's one of the hot ones on the team, so social media wants more pictures of him. And in walks our MMC. I think she is the new, I want to say, lawyer for the team. And then they end up having to do a little bit of some fake dating. And one trope I found that I actually really like is when one of the characters falls sick and the other one goes to take care of them, and that trope happened and that one hit for me. But I rated this one 3 stars. It hit for me. I had fun with the tension building and the grumpy sunshine. It was just a little bit of a palate cleanser for me, which was really nice, and a little bit of a change of pace too. And then coming off of that, my 3rd read of the month was a duology. It's the Frost and Nectar duology by C.N. Crawford. And I read Frost and Ambrosia, and this was fun. I actually had a lot of fun with it. I was told to go in knowing that this was like a light fantasy romance, and that this was just, it was fun. Essentially, we start off with our our FMC, who she is in the human world, but she is Fae, and the human world understands that there are Fae out there as well. And she walks into her boyfriend cheating on her, and she had just put him through school and they were supposed to get married and, you know, have a life. And she walks in and her whole life gets completely uprooted on her birthday. And so she goes and gets just shit-faced down at the bar, and in walks the Fae Prince from the Fae realm. And he has to essentially find a wife and marry. And so he's like, I have to go and I have to pick certain suitors and you're on the list. And he doesn't want to marry at the same time due to circumstances. And she's in just a very pissy mood, and she's like, all right. And he's like, well, I'll pay you if you come and we set up actually a fake arranged marriage, and you can go back to your life. And so she has to get through these trials in the first book, and they make this bargain, and it goes on from there. And then there is a follow-up book to this where there is kind of this overlying story and plot going on as well that picks up in the second book. And the second book was fun. We get put into a different realm as well, and I had fun with it. I rated the first book, Frost, 3.5 stars. And then the second book I rated 3 stars. Like I said, I had a lot of fun. If you just need something quick, fun, a little bit of a palate cleanser, I would definitely suggest this one. My next read was actually one of my TBR reads, Beartown by Frederick Bachman, and this one I rated, oh, I didn't put my rating down. This one I believe I rated 4 stars. I was trying to stick with the season, the frost, the cold, the chilly, and so I had heard a lot about this trilogy, and this is about a town, an entire town, because you get everybody's point of view in this book. And they're out in the middle of nowhere. They're trying to build up the economy essentially, and they're very proud of their hockey team, and specifically their junior hockey team that is very, very good. And in order to really help the town's economy, they need to make sure that their hockey team continues to do what they're doing, which is winning. And so the whole town is really supportive of each other and excited about how well they're doing and the prospects happening. And then something happens that completely just tears the town apart. And obviously people pick sides, and so you go through all of this and with the town and with everybody's point of view. And this was really good. I really enjoyed it. I had to sit on it for a few days actually, because it was a little bit heavy for me. I did not immediately pick up book 2 or 3 because I needed a little bit of a break, but I really enjoyed his writing. I really enjoyed the entire story, really, and I liked getting to see the emotion from the characters through his writing. I felt like I felt every person's emotion as I was going through their different point of views. One of my favorite characters in there was the bartending widower. She was just a badass, and I loved her, and I can't think of her name. I think it starts with an R. But I really enjoyed her. I really enjoyed her POV. And will I continue this series? Yes, I want to continue this series. It was really good, and I would suggest this one. All right, my next book in February was Dawn of the North by Demi Winters. This is continuing in the Ashen series, which I think is her only series right now. I don't think she has any other books out, but I listened to this on audio. I had just gotten done with the novella last month, and I loved it. She's done such a good job. I love her writing. The audiobook narrator as well did a really, really good job. And this story picks up, and this is a 3rd book in a series, so I don't want to dive in too much. Demi Winters just did a really, really good job of keeping me turning those pages. She did a lot of cliffhangers at the end of the chapters, and then immediately goes into another POV, and it just made me mad because I needed to know what was happening in this little story. So she was pissing me off, but I was having so much fun at the same time, and she was doing her job of keeping me turning those pages. So the story is continuing. My understanding is this is book 3 of 5, so I'm just gonna tell her to keep doing what she's doing. But this I rated 4.5 stars, so really, really enjoyed jumping back into this world. And then getting into my Valentine's Day feel, I picked up Can't Fix Cupid by Raven Kennedy, and this was really cute actually. I don't know what I expected from this. I think I just expected a solid 3 stars, but I ended up rating this one 4 stars. This is about a Cupid. Cupid ends up in the real world, has to help the grumpy billionaire find love, and I just felt like it was the right amount of cheesy, of cute, of grumpy sunshine, of even smut. Like there wasn't too much either, but the banter, I really enjoyed the banter between the FMC and the MMC, and I just thought this was cute. Just a good, fun romance. I had fun with it. And then the next book I read was the first book of the North Shore series, Beautiful Fiend. I was really excited to pick this one up, and this is about the MMC and the FMC are from a hard part of town, and they're both trying to get out in some way, shape, or form. They're both part of rival gangs as well, so they're fighting each other, they're kidnapping each other, they're blackmailing each other, both the rival gangs and the families, and yeah, this was my first DNF of the year. I DNF'd it at 70%. I couldn't get into, Caden just kept pissing me off. There was non-con, and I just felt like she was falling prey to Stockholm Syndrome, honestly. And so she's presented as this badass FMC, but I'm just like, really? You're still falling for this guy, even after all the shit that he's put you through? And then Caden he's messed up for good reason, but I tried. I got to 70% and I DNF'd it. So unfortunately, I will not be continuing with this series, but I tried. Getting into my next read was Silver Cloak. I was frustrated with myself because I found out that this is part of a series. I was getting to halfway in the book, and I'm like, wait, there's just so much that still needs to be done, and they can't get this all done with this much left in the book. And then I looked and it was part of a series, so I was a little frustrated with myself. But this one is about it's fantasy romance, more so fantasy than it is romance, I would say. I really, really enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4.5 stars. We're following Saffron, who again is seeking revenge from this ruthless criminal organization, the Blood Moons, who murdered her parents. And I really enjoyed the world building. I really felt connected to the characters, and I even enjoyed the magic system. They actually used wands. I haven't seen that in quite some time. I want to say almost since Harry Potter. And it was a very, very heavy on the plot versus necessarily the romance. And it hit for me. It really did. I wanted to know more. I thought the writing was really, really good. This was my first book from L.K. Stevens, who I think is also the author of Our Infinite Fates, and I think her pen name is different there too. But honestly, the romance could have been taken out of this story completely, and I still would have really enjoyed it. And I really enjoyed our FMC and our MMC, and the way it ended, I need book 2 yesterday. Great narration as well. I listened to the audiobook. This was good. 4.5 stars. Loved it. All right, so I jumped back into K.M. Morinova and picked up a new series. She does, which I really, really appreciate. She does a lot of duologies, and I don't think she's done, Has she done a trilogy yet? I think she may have one trilogy, but she does a lot of duologies. So this was a new duology, the Pine Hollow duology, and this is A God of Wrath and Lies. No, this one is a trilogy actually. So there's 3 in this one, but A God of Wrath and Lies. And so this one was about our FMC who lives in the shack, actually, in her parents' backyard. It sounds like they have a lot of land, and she just likes keeping to herself. She has experienced a lot of loss recently. Her aunt has died, who she was really, really close with, and her dog, who is her best friend, just passed away within I want to say like a year or 2 after her aunt. And so she's become very much a recluse, but she has a neighbor that she interacts with every once in a while. And then there's this hot guy that also drops by the neighbor's house. And so she goes out and follows him around, and then ends up falling into this fantasy world, following this MMC, and gets stuck essentially in this fantasy world. And then the story picks up from there. Then there's another MMC that she kind of falls for. It was like any hot guy that walked into her path, she was falling for. So this one again was just a little too choppy for me. I didn't quite understand the world that she was trying to build here. There was just a lot going on, and I didn't feel like the melding of the 2 worlds was very fluid, or it was very well done, unfortunately. So I ended up giving this one a 2-star, and because I still finished it, it did get better as it progressed, and I still am slightly interested to figure out what the underlining conflict is, but again, this one just, there were things that just took me out of the story too often that it was just ruining it for me. So unfortunately, this one just didn't hit for me. And then I had heard a lot about The Second Death of Locke, which is a romantic fantasy about the bond between a mage and their well. So 2 separate individuals, one's a mage, one's their well. A mage can only gain their magic using an individual who is a well, and the well is essentially like their store of magic. And so these 2 people are not bonded, but they have to work together, and there's a huge war going on. So the mages are fighting, but the well's there to make sure that the mages still have their power. And they're worried that essentially there's these 5 major families, I believe it was 5 major families, that were like the source of all power, and 4 of them have died. There's only 1 left, and the only reason why they know that this line is still going on and the well is still out there is because there's still magic happening, and they're looking for this lost lock, and the story just kind of goes from there. So they're on this quest, this adventure, and this was so much fun. I felt like I was a part of an actual fantasy world. I was walking through the woods, the forest. I was on this quest with them, and the tension between the MMC and the FMC, it was good. It was really good. And I do feel like the ending fell slightly flat for me, but I really did I enjoyed the writing, I enjoyed the atmosphere, I enjoyed our characters and the love, and even the political intrigue. Like, I normally am not all that fond of stories that really have to dive into all the politics, but this one really, really hit for me, and I wanted to know more. So solid 4 stars for me on this one. And while this is the first in a series, these are standalone series. So this story and this couple, their story has been wrapped up. So I was happy to find that out when I saw that this was a book in a series. All right, I think because I was starting to get into March, March, I love, love, love St. Patrick's Day. And so I'm like, ooh, Ireland, mafia, Irish mob. I wanted to get back into my mafia phase. So I picked up Sweet Temptation by Cora Riley. And then this was good. It was a lighter mafia book. It was a single dad trope and marriage of convenience. And besides the fact that you knew he was an underboss, the entire book I felt like was focused more on the romance than anything else. So it was short, it was a quick read, and just exactly what I needed after some of the heavier books or larger books I was reading. And I gave this one a 3-star. It didn't feel like a true mafia to me. I just knew that he was in the mafia, that was it. And then otherwise it was just the entire book was focused on the romance, which wasn't bad. I still had fun. It hit for me in terms of it was good. It was fun. I kept reading. I wanted to know what happened. And I like me a single dad trope, so that was fun. And then the next book I picked up was my book club book, which was Careless People by Sarah Wynne Williams, excuse me. And this is, they call it a cautionary tale of power, greed, and loss of idealism. She essentially is a whistleblower, I guess you can say, from Facebook. She worked for Facebook for 7 years. About a decade ago, and this is her story about how Facebook grew and what she did for Facebook and power that ended up coming about, and the greed and just losing focus on what their original goals were for the company, or what she thought their original goals were for the company. So it's her experience, and it was very eye-opening for sure. I had to take a lot of breaks. I started this one at the beginning of February and I didn't finish it. It took me like a week and a half to 2 weeks to finish it. I read to escape, and this was just kind of emphasizing all the things that we're experiencing in the day-to-day. And so I just needed to step away quite a few times, but it was still good to see and to know and to hear other people's point of view. And my book club hasn't met on this book yet, so I'm interested to hear how everybody else took it. Kind of made me think about that Superman quote of, with great power comes great responsibility. It's always interesting to see what our individuals in power do with their power. Moving on, I jumped right back into the mafia. Speaking of greed and power, I picked up, because I had heard, I think this one came out recently actually, and I had heard a lot about it already. I picked up Bad Bishop by LJ Shin, and this was a lot of fun. I really liked this one. And while still very heavy on the romance, I still feel like I got to see some of the badass mafia crap that goes on in these stories, and just make sure you read your trigger warnings for sure with this one. The audiobook was fantastic. I do love me Mr. Corvin King. He's done a lot of books that I've read, and I really enjoy his work. But one thing I did like in this book was our FMC is actually deaf, and I really enjoyed seeing the representation in this book. Anywhere from just what she does to in her day-to-day to actually addressing some of the unique tools that these individuals can use as well. So I thought that was really cool. And then it wasn't until I was writing this review that our MMC actually has his eye taken out. And I even wrote, our MMC, even with one eye, he was the only one that really and truly saw our FMC. He was very patient with her. You got to see some of his family as well, and I loved getting his backstory and his twin sister's backstory. Age gap, marriage of convenience, disability representation, you touch her, you die, and when he falls hard, and I really enjoyed this. I gave this one 4.25 stars. And then the last book of February, I have been wanting to read this series for quite some time. I finally started the Edge of Darkness series, and I will do a full book review on this series later. But I did read the first book this past month, and Cade Mitchell, ladies and gentlemen, has stolen my heart. I think he is now one of my top book boyfriends for sure. Lee Rivers is doing a fantastic job. I am loving this story. I'm invested. It is childhood friends to lovers to enemies to lovers again, and so you just get this whiplash of a story back and forth. There's a lot of then and now happening as well, so this was good. This was really fun. I rated this one 4.5 stars, and I am ready to go pick up book 2. That is my month of February reading wrap up. Have you read any of these books? Have you rated any of these books differently than I have? Let me know. I'm curious. And if you have any other good mafia romance books, drop them in the comments, because I am definitely back in my mafia phase for sure. So I hope you have a good rest of your day. I hope you had a good February, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.